Hey, Shanice Miller, debt-free college grad, here to present you with the last section, which is Rock the Scholarship Interview. Wow, you have made it through the entire series, so by now you should really know exactly where to find the scholarship for you, scholarship applications do and don'ts, how to craft that essay, how to get the best recommendation letters, and now it's the final part, Rock the Scholarship Interview. So really pat yourself on the back because you have made it all the way through, almost to the end. It's the last section. So we're just going to dive right in and get to it so that you can complete those scholarship applications, rock that interview, and be on your way to scholarship success and graduating college debt free. So the interview. Now, a lot of scholarship applications might not require you to do an interview, but there are some that do. And with the scholarships that do have an interview, that interview becomes one of the most important parts of the scholarship application. Now, the interview is really going to allow the judges to get to know you, and they can really see you. You'll be face to face with them. Sometimes you have a phone interview, but still it's the same thing. And you will really learn a lot more about, they will really learn a lot more about you through your verbal and nonverbal communication that they just wouldn't be able to know through your written scholarship application. So this interview is going to be really big in helping you to really secure those scholarship funds and be that winner. Now, I know a lot of people are probably getting nervous just hearing me talk about a potential interview. Your palms are getting sweaty, you're starting to tap your foot. Well, don't worry, you aren't alone. You're not the only person who gets nervous during an interview. Most people are actually worried and nervous when they have to interview, even still for job interviews. But the good thing about it is the more interviews that you go on, the less nervous that you'll be. And the better prepared you are for the interview, the easier it will be. And that's why we're doing this whole section on the interview process, to prepare you for that interview so that you can really knock the judges out the water and you don't have to be nervous, confused, or scared or wondering if you won the scholarship money or not. You can be confident going into that interview that you are prepared and that you are the best candidate for the scholarship fund. So really the key to interviewing is to be prepared. So how in the world do you prepare for the interview? Now I'm just going to discuss a few techniques that will help you prepare for the interview. And now remember, these techniques don't just apply to scholarship interviews. Interviewing will be a part of you when you're going out for jobs, internships, anything that you want. It's going to apply to any interview that you'll go on. And college interviews are included as well. So don't just think that this is just for scholarships. It's for everything. It's for the rest of your life. This is a life skill. Interviewing is a technique that you really are going to learn, you're going to practice, and it's really going to help you out for years and years to come. So the first technique that you really need to know in order to prepare for an interview is to do your background research on that scholarship committee, that college committee, or the college organization, scholarship organization, or even the job organization that you're doing that interview for. You really need to research the mission or the purpose and the background of the organization. And now researching the mission or the organization, and even some of the judges will give you an idea of what types of questions the judges will ask you. So once again, remember when we talked about how you can go on their website, you can look at their about page to find their mission or their purpose, or it might even be a separate link saying our mission. Those are the areas that you really want to look at on the website before the interview so that you can know what the judges really like, what their purpose is, what their mission is, where their hearts are, and then where their mission is. That's going to kind of give you an idea as to what questions they're going to ask you and what key points will matter most to them so you can know what to discuss the most. For example, if you're applying for a scholarship at an animal rights organization and you see on their mission that they really want to protect animals so that animals don't get hurt, that's what they're really thinking about, and that's what their questions are really going to be shaped around. It's going to be shaped around maybe animal cruelty, or if there are any topics in the news recently related to any animal cruelty or animal rights type of things. Those are things that you want to look at to prepare. They also ask you any questions whatsoever that's going to just deal across that animal rights. So maybe know some of the laws or look over some of the laws to familiarize yourself, because those are going to be the kinds of questions they're going to ask you based on their mission, their organization's purpose. Or the same goes like I had an organization whose daughter died before she was able to complete college. So a lot of their questions were centered around how can you ensure college success? They want to make sure that you will complete college, and they wanted to make sure that college was a priority to you like it was to their daughter. So these are things that you can really find out and you can be prepared for before you get to the interview section. So once again, how in the world do you research the mission of the organization? Just in case you missed what I just said, all you have to do is just Google the name of the organization. Their website should come right up. On the website, click the About page, the mission page, and the history page on their website, and actually read it. Go through it. Understand what they are really about. Understand what their mission is. Understand what their purpose is. And these tabs will tell you all about the mission and the background of the organization so that you can get a feel for exactly what they honor, what they find is most important to their organization. So then you can start thinking about how you can craft your answers to really show that you understand their purpose and that you align and that your purpose is in alignment with their purpose. So, for example, like I said, I applied for a scholarship that was created because their daughter was killed by a drunk driver in a car accident. So I clicked on the history tab. It had information all about the daughter. It talked about her being a leader, how she valued education, but she never got to finish because of the accident. And then I clicked on the mission tab, and it continued to talk about her leadership skills and higher education. And then when I went to the scholarship application, the essay question asked me to write about the characteristics that I possess that will ensure college success. So, of course, leadership or a similar characteristic to leadership had to be in my essay response. You see, that came up in their mission, that came up on their website. So, you really want to make sure that it all correlates together. And then when I went on the interview, the questions were all centered around higher education and leadership. And one of the judges even asked me if I knew why the scholarship was formed, which I knew the answer to because I read the website and that really impressed them. So doing that little bit of background research really made the difference and helped me prepare for the interview. You see, reading the About page doesn't have to take a long time. Sometimes the About pages are only one page long or a half or a paragraph or three paragraphs. That doesn't have to take you a whole day to read. All it takes you is just sit down, kind of read over it, take 15 minutes or even 10 minutes. That's not that long. So it's really doable and it'll really set you apart from everybody else in the scholarship that's applying for the same scholarship. So now the second technique that I have for you is to develop and prepare a few main points that you want the judges to understand about you. Now, do you remember in the recommendation letter video, I had you make a cover letter which you listed a few key points that you wanted the writer, one of your teachers, your professors, your rabbis, to discuss in the recommendation letter. So you should do the same thing to prepare yourself for the interview. Just make yourself that same list of the key points that you really want to touch on. And once again, these key points should be centered around the mission or the About page or their purpose that you read on the website. Now, these points can be some of the same points that you discussed in your essay or in your recommendation letters. And the points should also highlight and add what you have already said. But you can also add a positive main point that you didn't mention before. And the judges are really going to ask you specific questions, but the way that you answer the question should be based on these main points. So what I mean here is that, of course, your things should overlap. You don't want to say one thing on your application and then say something completely different when you get into the interview, because then it seems like you're lying because what you said on the application and what you're saying now doesn't necessarily correlate. There can be something that's a little bit different, but for the most part, things should kind of go in alignment. So like on your application, if your essay question, you're talking about animal rights and animal cruelty, and then when you get into the interview, you talk about how you don't really care about animal rights or animal cruelty, those things don't align, so they'll immediately cross you off. It's the same thing maybe if you talked about your leadership skills on the essay portion and how you were always in charge, and then in the interview you talk about how you don't like being in charge. You like to kind of sit back and just go with the flow with what the rest of the team's doing. Those two things aren't going to correlate, so they're going to think that somebody else wrote your application for you. So you really want to make sure you have your main points together beforehand so you don't get nervous and say something that might be seen as something bad, or you don't get nervous and forget exactly what you wrote on the interview. It'll already correlate and be in alignment with each other. So basing your answers on these main points will help make the interview easier. And no matter what question the judges ask, you will already have part of your answer together in your mind. And now we really want to personalize the main point. So remember, it just keeps coming back. Tell your story. Personalize your essay. We talked about this in the essay. We talked about this in recommendation letter section. So really make sure those things are personalized. The same applies for your interview. You want to make the judges remember you, and judges will remember you through stories and examples. And now stories and examples also keep people engaged. They keep them interested and wanting to know more about you. So really personalize these main points. Now detailed accounts of or stories and examples of how you possess certain characteristics. These are going to be your main points. They're going to keep the interview interesting. So we talked about main points before. Let me just clarify a little bit. Your main points are going to be certain instances. You can even use some of the same or similar instances that you used in your essay. You just want to elaborate upon them more since you're face to face. You don't want to sound like a robot, like you're just repeating everything off the essay. You want to make it and show them that you really went through these examples, you really went through these experiences. And that's what's really going to keep the interview interesting. Remember to always explain, elaborate. Do not list. And this is also talking about, also comes back to the essay writing portion. Explain, don't list. And now the interview will also allow you to go into more detail. It'll allow you to talk more passionately, show the judges exactly how passionate you are, and show more enthusiasm when telling the story than what the judges will read on paper. So they can really get an idea for the person that you are. What are your likes? What are your dislikes? And the things that you can contribute to society or how you align with their scholarship fund and organization. So really personalize your main points with stories and examples. The judges will really remember the stories and experiences that you tell them about, and they will remember you when it's time for the scholarship winners to be selected. Now my next tip is to practice sample interview questions. So when reviewing the organization's mission and history, you'll definitely get an idea as to what types of questions you'll be asked during the interview. But you shouldn't just think about the questions from the website. There are always going to be some generic or common interview questions that are asked that you need to think about as well. You should write down all of the possible questions that you can come up with, even some of the questions that other people have told you that they've come up with. And I'm going to tell you some questions that I've seen a lot of times over the process of just being in interviews, scholarship interviews, job interviews, and even just along the way when I've spoken to scholarship judges and committees, they've told me different questions that they've had as well. So these sample interview questions, you don't have to necessarily write it down or write down verbatim, word for word, what you're going to say. You can kind of just put like a bullet outline of what you want to say using those main points that we just talked about. So say if you had a sample interview question and they just asked you, tell me about yourself, then you already have a couple of things you want to talk about yourself. Maybe you want to talk about the leadership skills that you talked about in your essay, and you want to share a personalized story that talks about those leadership skills and how you really portray those so that they can see that you really possess those skills and not just you saying it. So, for an example, when I applied to the dental hygiene program, I had to go on an interview. And since I was applying to that specific program, a lot of the interview questions were based on my experience in the dental field. They were also asked me a lot about why I wanted to get involved in dentistry and my future career goals. But a lot of the questions were also generic. So, going on the website, seeing those things that I told you about, doing that background research, that's going to help you to kind of explain yourself and to get in alignment with the organization as to why you want to join their program. What is it in particular that you like about their particular program or their particular school or their particular organization that made you want to apply? Then why do you want to further this, your education or your particular career field? And then some of the generic questions about just you. What type of person are you? What do you like? What do you dislike? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? These are all questions that you'll be asked at one point in time. So I just wanted to give you a sample list of some possible interview questions for you to think about, write down, and also to just think about in your mind, how will you answer this question? Like I said, you don't have to write out the full answer to the question. That's going to take a long time. Plus, when you write out the full answer to the question, you will probably forget different things that you put when you actually go to say it. So if you just make like a one sentence short answer of what you want to talk about with your strengths, or maybe some bullet points to outline saying, what are my strengths? That leadership skill and another characteristic that I talked about. And you might want to put a particular story. Instance, I was volunteering for feeding the homeless. And then you know that you can pull out one of those instances to talk about that particular question. Another possible interview question are, what are your weaknesses? Now, this one can be kind of tricky because you never really want to just say, oh, I'm not motivated, or something that's really bad. You want to take something that can be perceived as a weakness, but also can be perceived as a strength. A lot of times when I put down, when I would go into an interview and they would ask me, what's my weakness? I would say my weakness is being a perfectionist because I really pay attention to details, but sometimes that can be time consuming. So they really know that you're passionate, being a perfectionist, you're really going to do the job right, but you might just take a long time. So there's still two positives to that one negative that you said for your weakness. So it's not even necessarily really a weakness. It can be more so a strength. But the time part can just be a weakness. Or maybe one of your weaknesses is that you just get so passionate about something that you get wrapped up and you spend a lot of time in it. So that can be another weakness, but you always really want to show strengths to weaknesses. So think about that when you're starting to practice this sample interview question in particular. How would you describe yourself? Like, what are qualities that you would want someone to describe you as? So think about that. And then another sample interview question would be, where do you see yourself in 5, 10, 15, or 20 years? Of course, if you're going on job applications or job interviews, they'll want to see you with the job. They don't want to just hire an employee for you to just leave out. So you don't want to say, oh, after 5 years, I'm going to switch companies and go to your competitor. That is going to be a big no-no. They do not want to hear that at all. It was the same as when I was doing my dental hygiene interview. It was actually a group interview. And this one particular girl said that she wanted to be a dental hygienist so that later on she could go back to school and become a dentist. Now, as a dental hygiene professional, the person who was interviewing us, found it really offensive. She said that this is our own profession. This is not a stepping stone. We really can grow and we can really develop ourselves in that profession. So, of course, whenever you go on a job or a certain career, you don't want to just make it seem like you're just using that place or that position to get somewhere else. You want to make it seem like you're really passionate about it and that's what you really want to get into. So now the girl, I don't know if she got in or not, but I definitely didn't see her when we rolled into the dental hygiene program that next year. So definitely keep that in mind. And sometimes it just depends on who's interviewing you because one group, which was the group I was in, the girl said that, and we just had someone who was really stickler on that aspect. But another group, which my friend was in, um, a, somebody else said something similar or the same thing about she wanted to become a dentist, and they didn't really say anything to her about it. They were just fine. So it just really depends, but just to be safe, you want to always make it seem like you want to stay with the company long term, or you want to stay with whatever organization or whatever you're committing yourself to long term. You want to really dedicate yourself, and they want to see that you're going to grow with them and produce results for them over the long term, because you're going to be passionate about staying there, not just, oh, I'm here for a month or 2 months to just collect a paycheck and then I'm on to something else. So really think about that when you're crafting those answers for the where do you see yourself in 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. Okay? Some other questions might be, who is someone that you admire and why? Once again, when you're crafting some of the answers to these questions, think about the purpose, the mission, the background of the organization. See if there's anybody that you can correlate to their liking or to certain things that they would find really honorable. Another question might be, how do you handle stress and pressure? What's your favorite book and why? What has been your greatest accomplishment? How would you like to be remembered? Have you ever had to overcome adversity? Or another question might be, describe a difficult situation and how you overcame it. The key to this is how you overcame it. So sometimes you can describe something that you have problems with, describe a problem in your life, but you really want to focus in on and highlight how you overcame it, how you became stronger now that you've overcome that part in your life. You don't want to just focus on how life has been rough or make it into a pity party. That's not really where they want to go, especially with scholarships. They don't really want to see that, oh, I really need this free money because I can't afford it otherwise, and anything like that. They don't want to see that. They want to see something that you're going to really do, how you're going to utilize this to help others, to better yourself. Don't just focus on what's bad. You can describe that situation like we talked about before, but really focus on the positive. Highlight how you overcame it. Highlight the good in it. Highlight the good and the bad. That's really what they want to see. Some other sample interview questions might be, what is your family like? How do you plan to contribute to society in the future? What are you passionate about? What is your favorite activity? Do you prefer to work by yourself or as a team? Now, this one can be kind of difficult because you want to show that you're a team player. So it's hard. You want to talk about how you can work as a team, you can be a team player, you can work in a group with others, you like bouncing ideas off of other people. And you also want to show that you can work by yourself, that you're an independent person. So you might say which one you prefer in that answer, but you also might want to highlight some of the things that you are where you can work with other people as well. So maybe I might answer this part as, I prefer to work by myself. I can really make sure that I am managing my time correctly. I'm getting the job done quickly. But I do also like to talk to a team to really bounce ideas off, get different perspectives, because that's really what helps us to gather the best ideas. That's really what helps everyone to come together. So although I like to work by myself, I do still like to work with a team after we've gotten our separate duties done. We really like to kind of come together to talk about what works well, what doesn't work well, and how we can kind of improve our particular parts. Or if you want to say you like to work as a team, you can talk about how you like to work as a team, but then you can also break apart and do your own separate duties by yourself. But working as a team is great for getting those ideas out, really understanding what the project is asking. But working by yourselves in combination with a team is going to be perfect. That's the ideal. Okay, another practice sample interview question could be, what have you done to help others? What are some activities in which you had to show your leadership skills? Remember, we've been talking about leadership skills this entire whole series, so that should be something that you should know right off the bat. What courses do you like the most? Why did you choose your major? Please, when they ask you why did you choose your major, don't say it makes a lot of money. That is not a good reason why you chose your major. You want to really look at other things, not just the money. And I really help students with picking out their majors, trying to figure out exactly what's best for them based on the type of work environment you like to work in, and based on where you want to see yourself. It's not just about the money, because after a while the money might get old, or you might not be passionate about it to be able to move up to the next level in that career. So really think about that answer. Why did you choose your major? And really think deeply about it. How, with this question, a lot of times they want to see why you chose your major and put it in a way where you can benefit someone, how you can impact the environment. So even if you're a graphic designer and that was your major, you might say, I wanted to be a graphic designer because I really loved art, but when I went to intern at one of these corporations, I saw exactly how the client's ideas in their minds have come to life through me putting it down on paper or showing it to them on the computer screen. So that's one thing I really loved, in seeing how happy people were with the finished product that I could produce for them. Something that was just in their mind, an idea I actually put on paper, and I created it to make something that they could actually see. So that's exactly why I wanted to be a graphic designer. Or as an accountant, you can say you really want to help people manage their money. Maybe if you had a certain experience where you had problems managing your money, you might talk about that and how an accountant might have helped you, or how some personal financing tips might have helped you, and now you're trying to help other people. But always you want to focus on how you can help other people with the things that you're doing. You always want to give back. Give from a place of giving. And it's something genuine. It's not like you're faking it or anything like that, because that's usually the people who are the happiest. They're giving back to other people. Some other possible interview questions. Do you plan to continue your education beyond undergraduate school? Or do you plan to go to graduate school? Now, you don't have to just say that you want to go to graduate school because that sounds like the best answer because everyone's told you you need to go to graduate school or anything like that. If you've really done your research on your particular major, then you can tell them, well, my research has showed me that I only need a bachelor's degree in this particular program. So at the moment, I don't plan to go to graduate school. I can get out and be able to help others with this one particular degree that I will be achieving with just my bachelor's degree. I don't need to continue my education at this time, but maybe with other things that I want to get into later on, then I might continue my education. But you see how that wasn't just a yes or no. You always want to elaborate, explain, not just list or just say yes or no. And you can always make it turn into something good, make it seem like you really did your research, make it show them that you really know what you're talking about and you really know this is what you want to do. Some other practice sample interview questions are, why do you want to go to college? What do you hope to gain from college? Once again, keep it all positive. Keep it genuine. What do you really hope to gain from college? But please don't say partying. Please don't say a good time. If you want to gain friends, say a lot of networking opportunities and connections that you're meeting. But don't just say, I want to gain lifelong friends. Networking, connections, those are key words that you can use instead of friends, where you can really talk about how y'all can each help each other grow in the future. So these are just things that you need to think about when you're going on these um, interviews. What qualities do you possess that ensure college success? See, it keeps coming up. Who are your role models in your field of study? And why did you choose to attend your college? And it shouldn't be not the why did you choose to attend your college. I've spoken to some admission specialists as well. You don't want to just say because it has a beautiful campus, because all of my friends are going there, because you're ranked number one. Colleges don't want to hear that. And this can go to the admissions, like I said before. They want to hear about a specific program that you're interested in, that they might be the only college that has that program. So really think about those things. What really makes that college unique? And it's not the ranking, it's not how many people go there, it's not how many of your friends go there, it's not the green grassy lawns. And these are things that you should think about too when you're choosing a college. Not just for the interview process, but why are you actually choosing this college? Do they have the program of study that you're interested in? Or are you just choosing it because of all of your friends are going there? So think about those things. So those are just some possible interview questions for you to think about and just write down. And then usually at the end of the interview, you can hear something like, is there anything else that you would like to add? And with that question, a lot of people get stumped. So sometimes, there have been times I've said no and it was okay, I still got the scholarship. Or if there's something else that you want to add in, just to kind of go on and complete one of the ideas that you had or something that you thought about after answering a question, you can say, sure, just pertaining to that last question, I just want to add, and then say your last thing that you want to add. Or what's really nice is you can say, I just want to add, I'm so thankful for this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to interview with you, and I really love this experience, and everyone has been so wonderful, or something along those lines, thanking the judges for their time, their energy, and just for reviewing your application and giving you the opportunity. That will go that will go years. Another question might be, why should you win this scholarship? Now, with this question, you want to talk about how you can put the scholarship to good use. Why should you win this scholarship? They already heard that you were a great candidate. You might be able to recap on that, or talk about something else. What can you do with the scholarship? It'll help you. They don't want to hear your sob story like we talked about before. Well, I will be able to be the first one in college for my family or anything like that. You can just really talk about, I really should like to win the scholarship because I'm passionate about doing this. I'm passionate about seeing this happen. And this scholarship can help me get towards that goal of making sure that I receive the bachelor's degree so that I can go on and continue these passions and then give back. And then, are there any questions that you would like to ask us? That's another really good interview question. A lot of people say no to this, but this is where that background research comes in, where you were on the website and you saw something that maybe you had a question about. You could write that down. Ask that question, because that's going to give you some extra bonus points during the interview. Or you can ask the interviewers, how did they get involved in the whole organization? What are their likes? It's not just all about you at the interview. You also want to show that you're interested in other people as well, that you want to hear about their likes, their dislikes. People like talking about themselves. Scholarship judges are no different. So if you're asking them about them, they feel more comfortable. It's more like dialogue, and it's more like talking to a friend. And we all know that we award friends money. We will sit up there, we will tell people all about our friends and what they can do for other people. So you really want to make this feel like a friendly type of interview if possible. So ask the judges questions. Ask them about their particular likes or as it pertains to that. If they express something in the interview that correlates with one of the questions you said or one of the answers you said, like if you talked about how you liked a certain major and they said I did too, continue that dialogue. Ask them, what was your experience in that particular major, or what was your experience in that particular career, so that you can gain more insight for them, but at the same time you're really interested in hearing about the judge's interests. They'll really see that as a genuine person. So now, section 5 is practice sample interview answers. I've given you a lot of answers and a lot of things to think about when I was going through those questions. So I'll just recap a little bit of things here. So now you've composed a list of possible questions, and you should write down the answers. Like I said, bullet point those answers, outline them, and outline your main points that you want to talk about and some of those examples that you want to talk about. So if you want more possible questions, you can just Google the word sample interview questions, or you can Google the words examples of interview questions, and then they'll give you a whole long list. Don't overwhelm yourself because you'll never really know exactly what the judges are going to ask you until after you get there. Just practice a couple of sample ones, and then you should be able to use a lot of the main points and the experiences that you've had to answer any question that they might throw at you. And now preparing these answers will prepare you for what you want to say during the interview, and it will also help your nervousness. So don't try to memorize your answers word from word. You want the interview to really sound natural, and you want to be more relaxed. So definitely just practice, have your bullet points, and really talk about those answers. Now, just coming up with, writing down, and reviewing the answers to the sample interview questions will help you remember the main points that you want to say during the interview. And if you don't say exactly what you wrote down for your answer during the interview, don't worry. The judges won't know. Only you know if you said exactly what you wanted to say or if you hit all the main points. Say if you wrote down 3 main points you wanted to talk about, but you only talked about one, it's okay. The judges will never know that you only talked about that one point and you didn't talk about all 3. Just as long as you elaborated and got across your main idea well enough. So once again, make sure you think of and use stories and specific examples to answer the interview questions. And remember, judges will remember you through stories and specific examples. So tip number 6, interview the interviewer. Now when we were coming up with the usual interview questions, one of the questions were, are there any questions you would like to ask us? Now this is going to be your time to become the interviewer, like I told you before. Take this time to really ask the interviewer any questions that you have about the scholarship organization or the judges. So come up with some questions to ask them so that when you're asked this question, you already know. And the questions that you ask should show the judges that you know something about the scholarship, the organizations, or the judges. Now, for example, if one of the judges does research, review one of the judges' articles on or papers that they did that research on. Mention that you read the judge's article on, say, environmental hazards. State what you found interesting and ask a question that you thought that you were thinking about when you read it. This will really impress that judge because they'll know. Now, this might seem like a lot of work, but when you're going up against interviews with a lot of other people and they have the judges listed, you want to go that extra mile. You've already done the scholarship application, and if you're able to get the interview, you really want to just secure that scholarship award. So don't blow it during the interview. Don't say you don't want to take 10 minutes to read an essay or to read the judge's research paper. Really just read it, write down a couple of main points that you might want to talk about, and then ask about that. Tip number 7, review and rehearse. So in order to prepare properly for the interview, you need to know what to say. And how do you know what to say? Reviewing the sample questions and answers that you made up. Now I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but it's because these are really key things that you need to do. Whenever someone repeats themselves or something is repeated constantly in a sentence or an essay, you know it's really important. So also, you can prepare properly by reviewing the application that you submitted for this scholarship. Now, the judges are going to ask you a lot of questions about your application, so you want to be consistent in your answers and confident in your answers. If there's no consistency, like we talked about before, then they're going to see it as somebody else wrote your application. So really make sure that you know your application, you review it, you have that copy that we talked about making of the completed application after you've completed it and before you submitted it. So before that interview, just go over the application again. See what the essay was that you wrote down. See what answers you had, the main points. See what recommendation letters you submitted with it. And then also, you want to bring extra copies of your resume and samples of your work if necessary. Now, this will impress the judges if you see them scrambling to look for your particular application. Let them know that you have prepared extra copies of your resume if they need it, so that you're being helpful to them. They're no longer stressed out or trying to figure out what it was they were trying to find in the beginning. So now, the interview day is here. Now that you're all prepared for the interview, it's time for you to go on the actual interview. Your big day is finally here. You've rehearsed and reviewed exactly what you want to say, and you're going to do great. You're actually going to do excellent. So now I'm just going to give you some final tips and then we'll be all done with this section. So dress professionally. You really want to make a good impression on the judges. Baggy pants or a wrinkled shirt with some jeans, that's not dressing professionally. The first thing the judges are going to see when you walk through the door is what you look like. So you really want to dress professionally. This means ladies can wear a nice blouse or slacks or a professional skirt or a suit with some nice dress shoes. Men can wear slacks and a shirt and tie or a nice suit with some nice dress shoes. Make sure your hair is groomed and it looks nice too. Check your clothes and hair right before you see the judges as well. Sometimes when we're driving, we have the windows down. It might make our hair a little bit tousled, so you want to make sure that you check that before you walk into the interview. Tip number 2, calm yourself down. So a lot of people that I know, they're going to be nervous during that interview or just knowing they're going to go into that interview. So do some things that's going to calm you down. I used to take deep breaths and listen to some relaxing music right before the interview. I would put aside all of my notes and I just wanted to relax. So of course this was after doing a quick review of all my questions and answers in my application, but I still made sure I scheduled out that 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before the interview to just breathe, relax, maybe even listen to some meditation music. Now, you want to stay away from things that's going to irritate you or stress you out. You want to seem calm, cool, and collected when you're in front of the judges. Now, tip 3, arrive early. This is so important. You never want to come to anything late. If you're late for the interview, you could be disqualified by missing your allowed interview slot. Now, you always want to arrive early, at least 15 minutes early, because if you get lost or if there's traffic or anything like that, then even though you might be a little bit behind time, you'll still be right on time for the interview. You never know what can come up, so you always want to arrive early. I used to arrive early as 30 minutes and just take that time to review my notes in the car, to really relax and listen to the relaxing music before I went in so that I could be calm and I knew exactly where I was going. All the times where I tried to just arrive right on time or 5 minutes before, I ended up getting lost, not knowing where the building was, getting a little bit confused. So you really want to just allow yourself extra time to get there. You also want to make sure you know where you're going and how to get there. Now, sometimes when we use our GPS, it'll take us in a certain proximity, or sometimes it can take us in the wrong area. I know that happened to me once, so I was really stressed out before going to a certain event because my GPS took me to the wrong area, and even though I started late, I ended up arriving there just a little bit late. So I was supposed to come get there early, ended up getting there late, but it was okay. For a scholarship interview, it might not be so okay. So you really want to just make sure you know where you're going and how to get there beforehand. And add extra time to the time it takes you to get to the destination just to account for any traffic delays or in case you get lost. I used to always just double the time it took. So if something said it took me 30 minutes to get there, I would leave out an hour beforehand. And it's always better to be early than to be late. So if you're early, you're always on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, that's simply unacceptable. That was one of my favorite quotes of all times. I remember reading it on a doorstep or somebody's door when I was in middle school. And it always stuck with me. So just always remember, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, that's just unacceptable. Tip number 4, greet the judges. When you first walk in, you want to greet each judge with a firm handshake, make eye contact, and give each judge a smile. Now, state your name and make sure you remember each judge's name. So sometimes I would remember each judge's name by when they would say their name, I would say, "Hi, nice to meet you," and say the person's name back. Help you remember it. Always, you want to always listen to what each judge is saying and seem interested in every topic that is discussed. And listen first, then respond or talk. You just want to be there to be open, natural communication between you and the judges. Remember, like a friend. And don't steal the show. So if it's you and a couple of judges, don't take the whole time just talking about yourself. They want to get some input too. You want to hear and really listen into what they say so that you can answer the questions in a way that makes it lets them know that you are really interested and that you can really hear and that you can be a team player. Same goes with group interviews. You don't want to steal the show. You want to really make sure that you give other people time to answer the questions, but you also want to make sure that you're heard as well. So find that nice balance. Don't spend the whole time talking about one particular point. Make your point or your answer to the question that they ask clear and concise. Tip 5, limit any nervous habits that you have. So, some people might have some nervous habits like chewing gum. If you really want to freshen your breath, do it before you walk in and just throw away the gum. Throw away the breath mint or anything else that you might have in your mouth before you walk in to see the judges. Because the one thing that you don't want to do is sit there and start chewing on that gum while they're talking to you. That's already that's a bad habit. Don't chew on gum when people are talking to you. Don't move mints around in your mouth or anything else that's around in your mouth. It's really distracting and they'll be looking at you as you're chewing. So you just want to prevent that all around. Same with interviewing and same when you're talking, doing any kind of public speaking or anything like that. You don't want to have gum in your mouth. You don't want to have anything else in your mouth that you have to kind of figure out where you're going to tuck or put in there. That might just add to your nervousness. So just avoid it by throwing it out before you even walk in. Some other nervous habits might be tapping your foot, clicking a pen, fidgeting, saying and like a lot. Just limit these habits. They're going to distract the judges from listening fully to your answers, and you'll also lose some points for doing these things if it's to a point where it's a distraction. Tip number 6, be aware of nonverbal communication. So, nonverbal communication is your body language. You want to seem warm, welcoming, and friendly. So, you want to smile. Use some hand gestures. Don't overdo it, but just try and use them a little bit to the point where it feels natural or comfortable. Sometimes you have to practice this. For a long time, I was really awkward trying to use hand gestures, but then I learned exactly how to incorporate them with my particular body. So you just have to practice it. Sometimes practicing it in front of a mirror or when you're talking to any of your friends. Just start using some hand gestures and then see if you feel awkward. Don't put them up too high, too low. You can just start to kind of test all of these things while you're in the mirror looking at yourself and then use it in casual conversation. Do not cross your arms. Crossing your arms gives the notion that you're crossed off, that you're just closed off, unapproachable, and not interested or open. So you just want to kind of keep your arms open. Some people have that habit with crossing their arms, but you don't want to do that when it comes to interviewing. You want to sit up straight, don't slouch. You want to maintain eye contact with whoever is speaking at the time. Don't look down at the desk, look at your notes. You want to really make it seem like you're paying attention. And when you're speaking, make sure you give each judge equal eye contact. So look at each one. Don't just focus on one. Don't exclude the other ones if you and another judge are really talking. Make sure that you're trying to really include everyone so no one feels left out. Remember, one judge isn't just going to be the one that's going to give you all the money or to award you the scholarship unless you're only interviewing with one person. If it's a group of judges, say a group of 3, one, even though you and one judge hit it off, there are 2 other judges that you'll still have to kind of put in and submit and select you to say that they want you to be the winner. Tip number 7 is on finishing the interview. So at the end of the interview, just say thanks for the opportunity to interview with the judges. Like you can say it was a pleasure meeting with you. Communicate how much you enjoyed the discussion. Make sure you address each interviewer by name and when you're expressing this gratitude and make eye contact with each interviewer. In addition, after the interview, you can send each interviewer a handwritten thank you note or card just saying how thankful you are for the chance to meet in person and for the person taking the time out to meet with you. So these thank you cards, they're really going to set you above anybody else. I know it seems like overkill. You already followed up before when you submit your application to make sure they got it. You submitted a thank you card after they received the application. Now you're submitting another one. But it's really going to help you in the long run, set you apart from anyone else. It's going to keep your name in their minds. So that's what you want, and that's what's going to really help you to win this scholarship. So congratulations! Woo! Pat yourself on the back. You have completed the entire scholarship success course from start to finish. Now you're prepared and ready to search for and win scholarships. So get started. Send out some applications. You should already have your packet pretty much completed. Once again, for the last time, take action.